Hey guys, welcome to this new little video series revolving my graphic novel, Kurokenshin, soon to be properly renamed as Kurokenshin Rebirth. But I need to take you back to the beginning before we get into the changes to come. So we're going to literally jump back in time to 2005, my freshman year of high school. I started drawing out the first ever version of Kurokenshin, which was then named Kuromi. I remember this page specifically. I was inking it in music class, so it must have been, it was the second half of the year, but I was inking it and somebody who came in and sat behind me said I was really good and it looked really cool. But I only got through about 5 pages of this version because I was learning a lot at that time. I was still just really deep diving into drawing. All of the art here, you can see that 100% inked by hand. Every single line of action, all of that, which does have a really nice effect looking at it. But at the time, it was work, and it is still work if I wanted to do that today. Over the summer, I tried to develop it. I did a couple covers, because usually covers inspire me, and I actually did do another version. I have not been able to find it in my files, so it may just be in my box. So this is my box of Kurokenshin stuff. We have a little Kentaro plushie I made. More on that later, if you guys care. There's a calendar we're going to talk about in a minute, but I'm looking for that other version. And I only had 5 of those original line arts scanned, but this is that whole version here. So I actually had quite a few pages. I think I got to chapter 2. I only did them on one side because I was inking by hand and the ink bleeds. The biggest thing that you'll notice change from this layout to my newer one is the number of panels per page. This was amateur comic me filling up a whole 8.5 by 11, when if you print that as a book, everything becomes really tiny. Oh, here's what I was thinking of. Okay, on this page, for example, you can see this nice little gradient here. That's actually a toning sheet. They do sell them. They're very expensive, but they come in 11 by 17, and you essentially use an X-Acto knife to cut the shape. It's a sticky paper, so you put it down. But this is OG version, y'all. OG version. First time Rika appears. Still my favorite image. Right there, guys. But you can see the X-Acto knife ain't so exact when you got all these sharp little lines, and I ain't that great at it. I guess I didn't do a different version. I just got farther in this than I thought, because I thought I had used this later, but this is pretty much where we got a lot of volume 1. I finished chapter 1, it looks like, aka started chapter 2. That was the early versions of Kuromi. But over the course of all that, I actually started to get a better feel for the story and the characters, so I restarted it going into sophomore year as Kurokenshin, and this was the original cover at the time. If you notice the dimensions, this is the dimension that the file actually was. I think I was working on a 5 by 7 size, which has affected my pages since then. It's like the original files. They have been squashed in many ways. Again, I started the first volume in 2006. It was 186 pages. I was super proud of it. We went to self-publish it. At that time, I didn't know about any print on demand. We actually took all the files to a local printer where they printed out everything and then cut the pages down to size. And then we printed out the covers ourselves on cardstock and assembled them. So this is the first print run ever of Kurokenshin, the untrimmed version. So we had the pages. The printing was actually pretty impressive. The local printer was great. But we had to glue the spines ourselves, and essentially we folded up the cover, stuck it on, and waited for it to dry to make our own cover here, which is why there's some variance. See over here in the height and everything, and then we would have to take it back to the printer and have them cut it. So this is the cut down version. There's still a white trim there, so it wasn't perfect. Everything was really, really close cut on the pages. Readable, but not ideal. Sometime within the next 2 years, my advisor had turned me on to Lulu, which is a print-on-demand company. They're still active right now, but I'm no longer working with them. And I redesigned the cover and we reprinted it with this cover here to restart the series. But I didn't do anything else to the interior except for adjust the pages to the height, which was 5.5 by 8.5. We now had a print-on-demand book that I could make several copies of, or several dozen copies of, and I would take them to local conventions. In my area, there weren't too many. Meanwhile, I was experimenting with other series. A lot of them didn't take off. Some of them I started and put up on Smack Jeeves and Drunk Duck, which were like my sources to post my webcomics on. And the only series that I pursued, aside from Kurokenshin, were With a Cherry on Top and XYZ, which is actually a standalone. And those are available. I have links on my website and on Amazon. But we're talking about Kurokenshin. Between books 1 and 2, my art did improve. This is where we gotta kind of divert into a couple strains here, because I worked on a calendar for 2008 where I did a colored image for each month with Kurokenshin, because why not? Like, it was the time to do whatever I wanted with my story. And so I did this calendar. Here's the images. It was a lot of fun working with those new characters and doing the color and like learning how to do better art, really, because everything was a learning experience. I did take a couple art classes in both high school, and then I majored in art at university. Nobody really wanted me to do what I wanted to do. So a lot of what I've created with my graphic novels has been my own pursuit. The other things that I've done, I might have to do this in a separate video because it's cringeworthy, but it's also like, I look back and I'm like, oh, I put so much work into that. A couple like small animations for it. A lot of them were just like really rough drafts. But for this one, we're just talking about the initial printing and the development of the series. Got volume 2 done, and then every year I got a new volume out. Usually I was also getting out a book of With a Cherry on Top as well, because I started to build a small community of followers at the convention, so they would come to my tables and say, when's the next book coming out? And that kept me going, which is great motivation. So I got a book out every year, and the last book I did finish while I was abroad in Japan, and that was 2014. From its conception in 2005, the first one was officially 2006. 2006, 2007, reprinted in 2008, but between those years, I did 7 books. So the first 5 you'll notice are very uniform, very branded, and then the last 2 kind of changed. This was intentional because there is a 2-year gap in the story where an event happened, the darkest time for the protagonists. Essentially, they were injured. One of them was in a coma. So 2 years had passed, and it just made sense for the covers to kind of also change and become Kurokenshin Rebirth because the character is reborn. With that, however, there was only 2 books left. It could have been 3. I have regrets about how I ended it, which is kind of a big motivation for redoing this series. I was, living abroad, so my life had changed, and I just wanted to be done so I could move in a different direction. And I had rushed the ending of the last book, and it was like, no, I'm not gonna see any of those people at the convention. So I had lost touch with the community, and I cut it cold at the end. Coming back a few years later to read through and enjoy the story, I get to that end and I am taken aback, because why did I end it so abruptly and so vaguely? Very irritating and very disappointing. So I was like, I need to redo this ending. So initially I was just going to update the files through Lulu and have the extended ending, and then Lulu started giving me trouble. So we left Lulu. Their update was not an update, let's just say that. So we left Lulu to work with Amazon, who I print my novel Tower of Dogs through. It was not looking hopeful for a while because their issues with formatting and bleeds was a struggle. We did eventually figure out a way around it. So I have the XYZ standalone, and the 3 books, there are 3 combo books, or however you want to look at it, for With a Cherry on Top, are up and available, and they look great. So these are the ones reprinted through Amazon. I obviously went with a matte cover, which is superior to glossy cover, always superior. I don't have the 3rd one of the way cut yet because it did just go live in April, and I have not ordered my author copy yet. We got XYZ here, and these are all 6x9, which is another size change, but it was to combat the bleed issue, which I will probably have to go over in another video because that was a saga. But here's the two with a cherry on top books. Nice chunkers, about 250 pages each. So I got these reprinted and I went with these first because they were the shorter ones, and now I'm delving into the 7-book series. Back to Kurokenshin because that's what we're here for. My plans with the reprint are pretty simple. For the majority of the pages from volume 2 through, let's say, 70% of the final volume, it's just going to be a matter of flipping the pages to accommodate for printing left to right instead of their original right to left manga format style that I did. Volume 1 is what I am trekking through right now. The image quality was not as great, and this was because I didn't scan the line art as a like black and white bitmap. I scanned it just as like a grayscale, which left the lines looking very much like a pencil gray, like a graphite. And I toned it there, and I was also such a noob that I flattened all my image layers. So it was not a simple matter of, oh, let me adjust the line art contrast and keep the toning from the original. It's no, you have to start over. So I have scanned in all of my original line art from Kurokenshin Volume 1 because I do want that art progression to be seen throughout this series. That's really important to me because it was a journey for me. It is inspiring to people who are starting out or who want to create, but they may not feel as comfortable in their current skills. You're gonna grow with it. And I didn't want to redraw with my current art style, A, because it was gonna take way too long, and B, because I wanted to maintain that original flavor that it had. So I am using all of the original line art. There are some tweaks, some layout things as needed, but it's pretty much what I drew back in 2006, 2007, just with updated toning, which really makes it more dynamic, increases the contrast, and it looks more professional. So if somebody picks up the first book, they see something that isn't as amateur as I believe the first book originally looks. So the third and final part as far as the interior goes for the Kurokenshin reboot, remake, rebirth, as it were, extending that ending. So I will probably have to draw several pages, if not another chapter. I have not scripted it yet because I want to get through all of the pages, make sure I'm tying up and checking for other plot holes I might have left to see how much I need to put toward the end. So that's a process, but that's gonna be several months down the road because we're trying to go in order from page 1 through the 30 chapters of the first 5 volumes and the 13-14 chapters that are in the final 2 volumes. We got a lot of work to do. Cover design is going to be another thing. Not only do I have to flip the original design so our barcode is not on the front, hallelujah, I cannot wait for that, because seeing the barcode printed on the front of my book because it reads the other way is just so sad. So we don't have to have that anymore, which is going to be great. We might combine a few books. I don't know, I'm doing it. I'm just trying to work on the interior. We'll probably have, like I said, another video on other side Kurokenshin things that I've done, like the animations, recreating, rewriting, or however, and covers. So we have a few more things to go over in the next couple videos, but I wanted to start you guys off with an introduction. This is one of my baby series, so it is important to me. It's been 8 years doing this series, so I'm not gonna let it die. How many times can I make a rebirth sort of pun here? I don't know. So that is one of my other projects that are going on right now. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Like I said, there's going to be a couple more videos going over some things that I've done with this series and that I am working on just to get towards the reprint. I would love to get it done this year, but knowing that I have to probably create a whole new chapter or so, that might take a long time. Leave any questions below and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.